Hello, and welcome to my presentation about prostitution in the brothels of Pompeii, as well as the Lupanar, the most famous brothel in the city. And although there is prostitution outside of brothels in Pompeii, this will be my main focus. But before we can even discuss prostitution in Pompeii, we must first address something that cannot be dismissed if you were to be walking around the streets of Pompeii. This is the prominent use of phallic symbols that can be found on walls, on the ground, and even in homes throughout all of Pompeii. During excavations, they even found phalluses on amulets or rings that were worn on adults and children alike. One would think that this was a gross or maybe even a perverted use of the symbol, but they actually served a different one. They were used as good luck charms and warded off the evils of early death in children. The phallus was also thought to be a source of good fortune and a symbol of fertility in ancient Rome. It can be argued that the prominent use of phallic symbols is also what led to the normalization of visiting brothels in Pompeii. Sort of like the red light district in Amsterdam, going to a brothel was like visiting a typical store offering services like any other one that could be found in Pompeii. For advertisements, and sort of like a menu, some of the brothels in Amsterdam have women dancing in front to entice men to come. In Pompeii, they have something similar. The brothels of Pompeii had something similar, but they contained frescoes and graffiti on their walls instead of girls in the front. Some of these frescoes would be over the door of the room of the prostitute, and they would show specific services the prostitutes could provide, as well as their prices. The frescoes could have also had other uses. Some say that they were used like a menu for arousal, or even as an instruction manual of sorts for the more inexperienced customers. The walls also contain reviews of some prostitutes and their skills. The walls even had dialogue from different customers that would tell stories of their time there. One inscription wrote, "Here, many girls poked." The cost of a prostitute was between the price of 2 and 10 assises, and assises was a bronze coin. According to one article, a prostitute charging 8 to 10 assises would have about 5 clients for the day, making them up to 50 assises. But a prostitute charging only 2 assises a day could have up to 15 to 20 clients. To put this into perspective, one loaf of bread around that time period cost 4 or 5 assises. But the problem with this system was that instead of the prostitute receiving the money directly, the money was given to the brothel owner instead. The people that worked in brothels lived hard lives that were quite the opposite of the romanticized versions of the frescoes that surround them. They worked in a small, prison cell-like room that barely had enough room for a small bed, and typically didn't even have windows. The rooms also didn't even have a door, so they were covered by a curtain instead. All that is left now are beds made of stone, but it is also believed that there were beds made of wood, but they were destroyed in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. And although these conditions seem grim, not a single person in their society cared. This is because they were mostly slaves or freeborn women. The women were also seen as simply tools in their society and were no longer seen as human beings. When they worked in a brothel, their pimps would oversee them and only give them the most basic of needs, and they would also cut them off from the outside world. The Lupanar was the most famous, popular, and biggest brothel in all of Pompeii. Other brothels in Pompeii were much smaller and only had a few rooms, so the Lupanar is believed to be the only building in the city created for the sole purpose of being a brothel. It is a 2-story building with 5 rooms and a bathroom or latrine located under the stairs on the first floor. The second floor contained 5 more rooms whose uses are speculated. Some say that the second floor was for the owner and the slaves, while others say it was used for special activities. On this slide, the bottom left picture is the front of the Lupanar, with me pointing to its entrance. The top right picture behind the red circle is where the latrine is located, and the bottom right is what the toilet looks like. The popularity of the Lupanar could have also been attributed to the fact that it was only 2 blocks away from the Forum, the hub of the city. In Latin, Lupanar means wolf's den, and lupa means wolf. But lupa was also a slang word for prostitute during that time. There are over 134 inscriptions of graffiti within the Lupanar that helped archaeologists to identify it as a brothel. One inscription wrote, "Myrtis, you suck well," while another wrote, "Hey, Mrs. Fabia," just to address the woman who worked there in that particular room. And although this graffiti is rather amusing, we should not forget that the people that worked there were victims of the horrors of society like slavery and human trafficking. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed learning more about the Lupanar and prostitution in Pompeii. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed learning more about the Lupanar and prostitution in Pompeii.